The two people can earn the same salary, save the same $1,000 a month, and still end up in completely different financial positions 10 years later. Not because one picked better stocks, not because one predicted the next market crash. The difference can be much simpler. One invested each dollar in the right order, while the other kept sending money to the wrong financial problem first. Fucking picture a normal Friday payday. What day should be for you notice. Your checking account gets a little breathing room, but your mortgage is coming. Groceries are more expensive than they used to be. The car payment is waiting, and your credit card balance is charging interest every single day. What fair? Then you open your phone, see someone talking about an ETF that has been climbing, and suddenly investing feels like the responsible thing to do. Most people assume that if they have extra money, the smartest move is to get it into the market as quickly as possible. And sometimes that is true. But investing is not automatically the best use of your next dollar. It changes you before you notice. If you are earning an expected return in one account while paying a much higher guaranteed interest rate somewhere else, your financial life can move backward even while your portfolio moves up. If you like calm financial breakdowns that focus on the numbers, the trade-offs, and what actually matters in real life, subscribe to the channel. Because the goal here is not to find the most exciting place to put your money. It is to make every dollar you earn work in the most useful order possible. That brings us to the central idea of this entire video. Before asking what you should invest in, ask what your next dollar should do. Sometimes that dollar should become cash. Sometimes it should eliminate expensive debt. Sometimes it should unlock money from your employer. Sometimes it belongs inside a tax-advantaged account. Only after those jobs are handled does a regular brokerage account become the obvious next destination. The order matters because every dollar has an opportunity cost. Put $500 into an investment account, and that $500 cannot also cover an emergency next week. Use it to pay down expensive debt, and you may avoid interest that would have compounded against you. Use it to capture an employer match, and you may immediately increase the value of that contribution before the market does anything at all. Building wealth is not just about finding the highest possible return. It changes you before you notice. It is about removing the financial forces working against you before asking your investments to work harder for you. The smartest investor is not always the person taking the most risk. Very often, it is the person who knows which problem deserves the next dollar first. Consider Daniel, a 34-year-old project manager earning about $82,000 a year. And it changes you before you notice. He is married, has a young daughter, and has finally reached the point where there is usually several $100s left after the bills are paid. That's around $6,000 in checking and savings combined, a workplace retirement plan, and a growing interest in investing because he feels like he started late. On paper, Daniel looks reasonably comfortable. His family pays $2,150 in rent, roughly $650 for groceries, $480 on a car loan, childcare costs that seem to increase every year, and insurance premiums that disappear from his paycheck before he even sees the money. The uncomfortable part is a $7,400 credit card balance left over from a medical expense, a car repair, and several months when life simply cost more than expected. Daniel now has an extra $700 a month available, and the choice feels obvious to him. He wants to open a brokerage account and begin buying index funds, because every financial video he watches seems to repeat the same message. Start investing early and let compound growth do the work. That advice is not wrong, but for Daniel, starting there could still be the wrong first move. Daniel's decision makes perfect sense because investing feels productive. Paying off debt feels like cleaning up yesterday's mistakes, while buying investments feels like building tomorrow's wealth. And when the market has been doing well, sending $700 toward a credit card can feel painfully boring compared with watching that same money appear inside an investment account. Daniel is overlooking one number. His credit card is charging 24% interest. So while he is hoping his investments might earn something like 7% or 8% over the long run, another part of his financial life is quietly compounding against him at roughly 3 times that rate. But the portfolio gets his attention because he can see it growing. But the interest charge does its damage almost invisibly. This is where many people look at the wrong scoreboard. They see their 401(n), IRA, or brokerage balance increasing and assume they are building wealth. Technically, they are. The financial position is not determined by one account. It is the difference between what you own and what you owe, and both sides of that equation matter. Suppose Daniel invests his extra $700 each month while continuing to make only modest progress on that credit card. A good year in the stock market might make the investment account feel like a success. Yeah, but the card balance is still generating expensive interest every month, regardless of whether stocks rise, fall, or spend the year going nowhere. That word matters. Guaranteed. Stock market returns are uncertain, especially over short periods. Interest Daniel avoids by paying down. A 24% credit card balance is not dependent on earnings reports, Federal Reserve decisions, or whether the market has a good year. Eliminating that debt removes a known expense that is already working against his cash flow. Imagine Daniel has $7,400 on the card at 24%. That balance alone can generate roughly $1,700 of interest over a year if it remains near that level. Chiga. That is more than $140 a month disappearing before it improves his home, buys groceries, funds retirement, or gives his family a single additional choice. But now stretch that behavior across 5 years. This loss is not just the interest Daniel pays. It is what he could have done after the debt disappeared. But once that monthly obligation is gone, hundreds of dollars can be redirected toward investments every month. But repayment does not compete with wealth building forever. If done correctly, it creates more capacity to build wealth later. This leads to an important complication. If Daniel should attack expensive debt before investing heavily, does that mean he should stop contributing to his workplace retirement plan completely? Not necessarily. Because one investment opportunity can be valuable enough to interrupt the normal order, and ignoring it can mean voluntarily giving up part of your compensation. If you want a simple investing order checklist, you can compare with your own finances. Comment stop below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave the free checklist there, along with the private community details for deeper financial breakdowns and examples. The exception is an employer match. Suppose Daniel's company matches 100% of the first 4% of salary he contributes to his 401(k). On an $82,000 salary, contributing roughly $3,280 over the year could unlock another $3,280 from his employer. Before considering investment growth, that match dramatically changes the math of where his first retirement dollars should go. This is why the smartest investing order is not simply pay debt first or invest first. Daniel may be better off contributing enough to capture the full employer match while directing most of his remaining $700 toward the credit card. He is collecting compensation his employer already offered without allowing expensive debt to survive any longer than necessary. Daniel still needs another layer of protection before he starts aggressively investing. Remember that $6,000 sitting between checking and savings? Some of that is not investment money at all. That's financial shock absorption. If the transmission fails, his daughter needs unexpected medical care, or his job disappears, cash prevents the next emergency from landing back on the credit card he just worked so hard to eliminate. There is no magical emergency fund number that fits every household. A dual-income family with stable jobs may need less cash than a single-income household with irregular income and expensive health insurance. The useful question is not, what number does the internet recommend? It is, how long could my household function if the next paycheck did not arrive? Daniel has enough emergency breathing room, captures his employer match, and eliminates the high-interest debt. The order changes again. Now his next dollar can start looking for tax advantages. An IRA may give him broader investment choices than his workplace plan. If he qualifies for an HSA through his health coverage, that account may also deserve serious attention because of the unusual tax advantages attached to qualified medical spending. And this is where people often make investing more complicated than it needs to be. Daniel does not need 7 brokerage apps, 20 individual stocks, or a prediction about what sector will outperform next year. He needs to decide which account should receive the money first. The account structure can matter almost as much as the investment sitting inside it. Think about 2 investors who both buy the same diversified fund and earn the same market return. One holds as much as possible inside appropriate tax-advantaged accounts. The other rushes into a regular taxable brokerage account while leaving available retirement space unused. Their investment may be identical, but the taxes surrounding that investment can make their long-term outcomes very different. After Daniel has used the tax-advantaged accounts that make sense for his situation, additional workplace retirement contributions can become the next destination. Only after those higher priority opportunities are handled does a taxable brokerage account become especially useful for long-term goals that need more flexibility, such as building wealth outside retirement accounts or creating a bridge to an earlier retirement. It does not make taxable investing bad. In fact, its flexibility can be incredibly valuable. Money in a regular brokerage account is not tied to the same retirement account rules, which can make it useful for goals before traditional retirement age. The mistake is treating flexibility as automatically more valuable than tax advantages when you do not actually need that flexibility yet. Daniel's $700 has now traveled through an entire decision tree. Protect against emergencies. Capture valuable employer matching. Eliminate expensive debt. Use appropriate tax-advantaged accounts. Increase retirement contributions. Then expand into taxable investing when the earlier jobs are already being handled. The investments themselves may remain surprisingly simple. Intelligence is in the sequence. And yet, if the order is this logical on paper, why do so many intelligent people ignore it? Why does someone with a 24% credit card still feel an almost irresistible urge to buy stocks? Why does someone without enough emergency cash feel uncomfortable leaving money in savings? At this point, the spreadsheet has given us most of the answer. Now we have to look at the brain making the decisions. The first reason is survival mode. When money feels tight, the brain becomes obsessed with immediate relief. A rising investment account can feel like progress you can see, while paying down debt or holding emergency cash feels like money disappearing into a hole. Daniel is not being irrational. He's trying to escape financial pressure as quickly as possible, even when the fastest-looking path is not the most effective one. Then loss aversion enters the picture. Imagine Daniel finally builds a $10,000 emergency fund. Suddenly using any of that cash feels painful because the balance represents safety. The same psychology can make investors refuse to sell a bad investment, hold too much cash after a market decline, or delay paying debt because reducing the checking account balance feels like becoming poorer. We often hate seeing money leave more than we appreciate what that money is accomplishing. Social comparison makes the problem even louder. Daniel sees coworkers talking about tech stocks, friends posting screenshots of investment gains, and people online claiming they are already on track for early retirement. Nobody posts a screenshot celebrating the month they eliminated a 24% credit card balance. So the financially boring move begins to feel like falling behind, even when it is actually strengthening the foundation faster. Then comes decision fatigue. Should he choose Roth or traditional? IRA or 401(n)? Index funds or individual stocks? The car loan faster or invest more? 3 months of expenses or 6? Every new option creates another decision, and after enough decisions, doing nothing starts to feel surprisingly reasonable. Complexity becomes an excuse to postpone the basic moves that matter most. Doing nothing is still a decision. Having cash in a checking account for 5 years has an opportunity cost. Carrying high-interest debt because dealing with it feels overwhelming has a cost. Ignoring an employer match has a cost. Waiting until you fully understand every investment before starting a simple diversified retirement contribution has a cost. In finance, inactivity can quietly compound too. This is why the smartest investing order is partly a mathematical system and partly a behavioral system. You are not designing a plan for a perfectly rational spreadsheet. You are designing one for a human being who feels fear, envy, uncertainty, relief, and regret. A good sequence reduces the number of expensive decisions you have to make while emotions are running high. Think of your financial life like an airport runway. Investing is the airplane. Everyone wants to talk about how high it can fly, how fast it can travel, and where it might take you. But before the plane ever leaves the ground, the runway has to be clear, long enough, and structurally sound. Ignore that part, and the most powerful aircraft in the world cannot solve the problem. Your emergency fund clears unexpected obstacles off that runway. Paying down high-interest debt removes drag that makes acceleration harder. An employer match gives the plane extra fuel you did not have to buy entirely yourself. Tax-advantaged accounts improve efficiency, so more of the energy you create stays inside the system instead of leaking away unnecessarily. Daniel's original mistake was focusing entirely on the airplane. He wanted better investments, better returns, and faster growth. His bigger opportunity was improving the runway first. Doug says, do you notice? Once the credit card is gone, the emergency fund is solid, and his contributions are flowing through the right accounts. The exact same investment strategy becomes far more powerful because fewer forces are fighting against it. Over 20 or 30 years, that difference compounds in ways that are easy to underestimate. One person constantly interrupts investing to handle emergencies, carries expensive debt, and changes strategy whenever stress appears. Another person builds the sequence correctly and keeps contributing through ordinary market cycles. Between them may look small in year 1, After decades, it can represent years of additional financial freedom. The lesson is simple. The runway determines how safely the plane can keep flying. Your wealth will not be built only by what you invest in. It will also be built by the financial obstacles you remove before that money ever reaches the market. Before you move to the final steps, comment notes below and check the pinned comment. I'll leave the free investing order checklist there so you can compare your own accounts, debts, and savings priorities without trying to remember everything at once. Start with a real audit, not a guess. Open the last 90 days of checking statements, credit card statements, loan balances, retirement accounts, and savings accounts. Write down your monthly essential expenses, every interest rate you are paying, your employer have one, and how much cash you could access immediately if income stopped tomorrow. Then identify the biggest 3 forces affecting your next dollar. It is a credit card at 23%. Maybe it is an employer match you are not fully capturing. Maybe it is the fact that one unexpected $500 repair would send you right back into debt. Do not try to optimize everything at once. Find the few decisions with the largest financial impact first. Next, turn the order into a system. Automate enough retirement contributions to capture the match. Set automatic transfers toward emergency savings until your target is reached. Schedule extra payments toward expensive debt. Once those priorities are handled, automate contributions into the tax-advantaged investment accounts that fit your situation. The less often you have to debate the same decision, the less opportunity emotion has to interfere. One simple rule whenever extra money appears. Ask which available use gives this dollar the greatest combination of protection, guaranteed benefit, tax efficiency, and long-term growth. Not ask what feels most exciting this month. Ask which financial job has the strongest claim on the dollar right now. Because the deeper point is not really about choosing between an IRA, a 401n, an HSA, or a brokerage account. The real purpose of the order is to create flexibility. Every expensive debt you remove, every emergency you can absorb, and every dollar that compounds efficiently gives your future self more room to make decisions without panic. So look at your own finances and ask one question. If you had an extra $500 this month, where would it actually do the most good? Not where would it look most impressive. Not what investment is getting the most attention online. Where would that $500 improve your financial position the most when you consider the entire system? Before you leave, comment, notes below, and check the pinned comment. The free investing order checklist is there if you want a simple framework for deciding what your next dollar should do, along with the private community details for deeper educational breakdowns. The smartest investment decision is often made before you ever choose an investment, because wealth grows faster when every dollar knows what problem it is supposed to solve first.